Good morning on this beautiful spring day. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by the Iowa Commission on Volunteer Services and representatives from Alliant Energy and Wellmark to announce the Give Back Iowa Challenge. Give Back Iowa is a 6-week challenge running from April 14th through May 31st. It engages Iowans in employer-sponsored volunteering both during and outside the workday. As you know, volunteerism has been an important passion of mine throughout my years in public office. In 1994, I signed an Executive Order 48, establishing the Iowa Commission for National and Community Service. This commission is now the Iowa Commission on Volunteer Service and works collaboratively with nonprofits and other organizations in Iowa to engage Iowans in service to meet our community's most pressing needs. The launch of Give Back Iowa aligns with National Volunteer Week, which runs from April 12th through the 18th. Give Back Iowa was created by the employer representatives like those with us today from Alliant and Wellmark and many others on the Iowa Employer Volunteer Initiative Advisory Council. In fact, I understand there are employers representing like 36,000 employees that have already signed up for this. We want to encourage companies to engage their employees in volunteering. Research shows that the connection between employer-sponsored volunteering and improved employee engagement, wellness, organizational commitment, and job satisfaction and retention. There's also research connecting employee engagement with increased productivity, not to mention the tremendous benefits to the community. As we continue to look to increase volunteerism in Iowa, we are asking for the support of employers all across the state. We believe Iowa should strive to be #1 in the nation in volunteering, as service is a key ingredient for meeting Iowa's goals for education, job creation, health, and just community well-being. And now I'm pleased to introduce the co-chairs of Iowa Employer Volunteer Initiative, Leah Rodenberg of Alliant and Angela Ten-Clay from Wellmark. I'll turn it over to you, Leah.
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to thank the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor for their tremendous support of volunteerism in Iowa. I'm Leah Rodenberg, and I work in the Community Affairs Department at Alliant Energy. And as a co-chair of the Employer Volunteer Initiative, I'm pleased to support the launch of Give Back Iowa. Alliant Energy supports employees and retirees volunteering their time and talents in local schools, churches, and community groups across the state. Alliant Energy has signed up to participate in the Give Back Iowa Challenge to encourage and recognize our employees that volunteer. Organizations can sign up by visiting volunteeroiowa.org/employers. There is no cost to participate in the challenge. Throughout the challenge, which will be held April 14th through May 31st, employers will encourage their employees to volunteer and log hours. An employer can track and log hours for all of their employees, or have their employees log hours directly online. Whether or not your company currently has an employee volunteer program, participating in the Give Back Iowa Challenge will be a chance for your company to see the positive effect volunteering has on your employees, company, and the community. Employers with the highest average of hours per employee will be recognized and receive a visit at your workplace by the governor or lieutenant governor. Multiple winners will be selected based on employer size. I'd like to now introduce Angela Ten-Clay. Thank you.
Employers and employees can search for local volunteer opportunities at volunteeroiowa.org. Employers and employees can also take advantage of volunteer events connected with National Volunteer Week, Earth Day, and Global Youth Service Day. We encourage employees to reach out to their local volunteer center to learn more about these types of large group service projects. Beyond the Give Back Iowa Challenge, the Iowa Employer Volunteer Initiative is hosted by Volunteer Iowa and provides resources to employers interested in engaging their employees in volunteering. These resources are available at volunteeririowa.org/employers or by contacting Volunteer Iowa. At Wellmark, we understand the impact volunteering has on employee wellness, and we hope other companies will join us in participating in the challenge to boost both Iowa's goals to be the healthiest state and a leader in volunteerism. Thank you again to the governor and to the lieutenant governor for their leadership, and to the many employers who have already signed up to participate in the challenge, especially those who serve on the Iowa Employer Volunteer Initiative Advisory Council. Thank you.
Leah and Angela, thank you. Now we'd open it for questions on this subject. Yeah, well, I guess most recently I volunteered to read to kids. And my wife does that on a regular basis. She's also was honored this year as being a volunteer for the Red Cross. When we lived in Boone, she was active with the Boone County Hospital. In fact, she got to be the chair of the Boone County Hospital Auxiliary. So we've both been active volunteers. I got to give my wife credit. She does more than I do. I think she was recently up in Boone too with the youth. What's the name of the group? Youth Shelter Services out of Ames. She's done a lot of volunteer work with them and participated in a lot of their events. But we believe very much in volunteering, and reading to kids is one of the things that. In fact, I read More Bears. And the kids, this was the kindergarten kids, they loved it. I would definitely recommend that. More Bears is a great book. What did I get out of the joy of seeing these kids just really enjoying that and enjoying the interaction and reading. So when you volunteer, you really get more out of it than the people you're serving. So I think it's one of the real joys, and one of the reasons I have a strong passion for volunteering and also honoring and recognizing those that do volunteer. And we are blessed to have a lot of great volunteers in Iowa. You may know that I started the Governor's Volunteer Award my first year as governor in '83, and we have recognized tens of thousands of people with that award over the years. Yes, sir.
Do you have any metrics in terms of has volunteering increased in Iowa, or is it up or down?
Well, I think we ranked third. Is that right among the states?
We're at 6th.
We're at 6th. Okay. I know there are times that we have ranked higher than Idaho. I think Idaho. Actually, no. I think it's Utah and Idaho are number 1 and 2. They both happen to be Latter-day Saint states that the church really puts a huge emphasis on volunteering. But we want to do all we can to encourage more people to be involved as volunteers, whether it's church related or whether it's other community nonprofits and good causes. Other questions? Okay. Yes.
There's big controversy at Dillon over the past week. Some Iowans are saying it's time to change state law, and that people who are gay should allow to be teachers in Iowa's Catholic schools. Do you support that?
Well, first of all, I believe everybody should be treated with respect and dignity, but I do also respect the rights of religious communities to have hiring practices based on the tenets of their faith.
So, all 3 of your kids went to Dillon.
Yes.
What was your reaction to what happened?
Well, I guess my heart goes out to both the individual involved and to the school. These are difficult matters, and I do think everybody should be treated with respect and dignity, but I also understand why churches and religious affiliated schools feel that they should be able to have hiring practices that fit with the tenets of their faith.
So you would oppose changing the law to require Catholic schools to hire paid teachers?
As I said, I support treating everybody with respect and dignity, but I also believe that religious institutions should not be asked to violate their conscience.
Today in Sioux City, the cops were father and son will be sentenced. When they first came to Iowa, they were welcome, but they sort of pariahs now.
Well, they've done some very bad things. And you know, they have been convicted of doing some things that has actually led to the death of some people from salmonella. And there's really no excuse for that. So I believe that it is appropriate that they be held accountable for their actions.
In retrospect, you wish they
Well, this is a country where people, I can't tell people they can't come to the state of Iowa, but we do expect that people that live here and are in business here follow the law and protect the health, safety, and well-being of the people of Iowa. And they failed to do that.
Governor, the snow is gone, spring is here.
Amen.
Yeah. But the ditches and roadways are littered with plastic bags that aren't going to go anywhere. Do you support a ban on plastic bags?
Well, I'm all for encouraging people to pick up litter and not to litter and to do what we can. I haven't really, I'm not aware of any legislation that would ban plastic bags, but I can tell you that my wife has a trunk full of cloth bags that she uses when she gets groceries. So we try to do what we can to encourage recycling and reuse. And I'm one that when I walk, pick up cans and bottles. I'm conservative enough that I take them back to get a refund. So.
Are you doing anything this week to try to push a deal on school funding?
Well, I've indicated that I would like to see the legislature get serious about resolving the differences on the budget. This is just one of the differences, but it is a big one because school aid gets the biggest share of the state budget, over $3 billion of the $7 billion budget. The state is facing some fiscal challenges. Unfortunately, farm income has dropped dramatically. Some of that I think can be attributed to what the EPA has done with renewable fuel standard. The price of corn, and I follow it, is down to about $3.50 a bushel. A lot of people in the East Coast and West Coast maybe don't realize that, but that's had a huge impact. It's way below the cost of production. So the USDA is estimating that farm income will be down 32%. We've already seen that. Revenue estimate in March was 19 million less than I based my budget on, and I presented a 2-year budget that is balanced and sustainable, and I did that the second day of the legislative session. I'm hopeful the legislature can come to an agreement that is close to the recommendations that we made. So if they decide to spend more in one area, they need to spend less in other areas to make sure that it's balanced and sustainable for the long term.
The governor was passed this last year. Do you really need to tell them to get serious? How can they possibly not?
Well, I've made my recommendation, and I've consistently talked about the need to provide stability and predictability and to approve not just 1 year, but 2 years. We recommended 2-year budget, and we recommended supplemental state aid and funding for the teacher leadership program that over the 2 years amounts to $250 million. That's $250 million of increased spending for public K through 12 education, more than half of the new money that's available in the budget that we presented back in January.
Governor, the legislature right now, both sides seem to have fundamental differences in how much money they're really spending.
Well, it's required. Basically, we have a bicameral legislature, and we have, we have a split party control, and that's not an excuse. They have a responsibility to come together and pass a budget that is sustainable for the long term. And I'm trying to do all I can to encourage them to do that, and to do that as quickly as possible. I know these are tough decisions, and it doesn't get any better by putting them off. That is the tradition and history of the legislature, is leaving the hard decisions to the end. But the sooner that can get done, the sooner things can be resolved, and schools and others will have the stability and predictability that they need in their budget.
You've been meeting with Republican leaders, what's hanging up on the Republican side to get to a unified front?
Well, I'm not going to go into the weeds on this. I just want to say that I have presented my budget. I have supported and defended it, and I've indicated a willingness to work with them and compromise. And we've reached compromises on other issues, such as and tough issues like school start date and funding for the road use tax fund. And I believe the state budget issues also need to get resolved, and the sooner the better.
But the weeds is where the problem is.
I know, but I want to be, just as I worked on the funding for the road use tax fund, I want to work with them. And if I make some public statement on a specific item, it may well reduce the chances of getting that resolved. I don't want to do that. I want to encourage and support the resolution of these difficult issues.
Senator, are you hearing from school districts how they cut to deadline this week, certifying their budgets, and then on 30th this month, sending out news releases, they still don't know how much money they're gonna have. Are you hearing from schools on those points that they kind of trying to twist your arm to try to get?
Whenever I've heard from school districts, I've made it clear that I made my recommendations. I made my recommendations on the second day of the legislative session. I'm not required to do that until the end of January. But to facilitate the process and to try to, and knowing full well that the state was facing some financial challenges, I wanted to give it to them early, and I wanted to make recommendations that I thought were as much as we could afford under the circumstances. And as I said, it's over half of the new money that's available. And I've made a strong commitment to education, and it's not just supplemental state aid. It's also the teacher leadership money. It's the money for early childhood reading. It's early childhood education we're providing to 4-year-olds. When you add all of that together, you can see and then also rewarding high achievers that go into teaching with stipend of $20,000 paid over a 5-year period. I think it shows a strong commitment, not just to education, but to improving student achievement and rewarding teachers that take on more responsibility.
So are you hearing from a lot of schools? I mean, this isn't the first rodeo for a lot of these schools, but are you hearing from them? Are they complaining?
Well, we hear from parents, and we hear from students, and we hear from schools all the time. And I visit a lot of schools, and they come and visit me. We had the seniors from Lake Mills here last week, and we've had a lot of other students from all over the state that have come and met with us. We do get a lot of school groups that come here, and the Lieutenant Governor and I also visit a lot of schools.
Governor, too many people in your party are just talking about the gas accidents, that way they'll go up for 1.25%, is that where things are stuck?
Well, I think that's oversimplifying the situation. I think you have various viewpoints in both parties and in both houses, and you have to have a budget passed, you have to get a constitutional majority in both houses, and they have to pass it in identical form. That's not an easy process, but it's time to get serious about resolving those differences and recognizing nobody's going to get everything they want.
Governor, this week is the deadline for confirmations. Have you told anybody from confirmations?
No. No, actually, I'm hopeful that they will all be confirmed. Many of our appointees to department heads and boards and commissions have already been confirmed, and the leadership in the Senate has not indicated to me any particular appointees that they have problems with. So I'm very optimistic that they will all be confirmed. I think we have a really great group of people that are willing to serve, uh, both as department heads and on boards and commissions, and very encouraged about the way the process has gone this year.
Just a political question. Hillary announced yesterday Democrats have done well in presidential elections here in Iowa. Does the Republican Party and do any of these people running have any shot at beating Hillary?
Oh, yes, absolutely. If you look at the recent polls, she's been dropping and Republicans have been gaining. But it's a long way from now to election day. And my advice to Hillary and to every candidate is come to Iowa early. She's doing that, so that's a good thing. Often, go to all 99 counties, meet with people and answer their questions and share your vision and plans for the future of this country.
What do you think of the political strategy of having their small, low-key events in Iowa? I mean, I know you don't agree with her on much, but.
It's a departure. But, you know, my strategy has always been, and certainly Senator Grassley started this before I did, go into every county every year. Lieutenant Governor and I do that. So does Joni Ernst. And it seems to work pretty well in Iowa. And if you look at the people that have won, like Santorum or Huckabee, in the Iowa Republican side anyway, going to every county and meeting with people and small groups has been a very successful strategy. I know it's a departure from Obama did the big rallies and thousands of people, but you know, every election is different. I happen to think that the strategy of being accessible to people and going all over the state is a good strategy.
Anywhere you think she should go on a road trip?
I don't think she's, well, first of all, Hillary didn't call me to ask for my advice as to where she should go. I think it is intriguing that the first place she's going to be is in Monticello, Iowa. And it is an education facility that Kirkwood Community College has done with the local school districts. And a former Republican representative actually donated the land for that. And I visited there in my campaign for governor in 2010. So I think it's a good choice of a place to go. But other than that, it'll be interesting to see what she has to say and what the reaction of the people that meet with her is. Well, I hope he'll be here early and often. As you know, he came for my birthday party. I was very impressed when I met him the first time. I think he's got a very interesting background. Both of his parents are Cuban immigrants that came here, worked at menial jobs, but were very committed to providing a good education for their family. And Marco has been very successful, was Speaker of the House in the state of Florida, emerged against a guy that's now lost in about everything you can imagine, but former governor of Florida that he beat for the U.S. Senate. And he started out with virtually no recognition and ended up winning that race by a considerable margin. So I think he's been very impressive in his knowledge and commitment to foreign policy, which is an absolute national disaster at this time, is something that I think Americans ought to take a look at.
What does a candidate learn by having a grassroots discussion with real people? Or is it just a program? Do people like yourself and others on actually learning?
I do. I'm not going to speak for her or anybody else, but I'm telling you, these meetings and roundtable discussions are a great opportunity to find out what's really happening. And that's why going to every county every year. I mean, meeting with you folks is nice here under the dome, but truly getting out in the state and hearing from, as Margaret Thatcher would say, real people is important. And it's a way to find out what concerns that average citizens have about what's going on in their state and in their country.
Are there any consideration of ancillary issues that both parties seem stuck on that I'm ready to say, no, we want this, or we do this, or we
I'm not one to end a horse trading. I know that sort of thing can happen in the legislative process, but I've always adhered to each issue should stand on its own merits. And consequently, I've made my recommendation based on what I feel the state can afford. We've presented a biennial budget that's sustainable for a 5-year period. And we want to make sure that what the legislature approves meets those guidelines.
You mentioned trying to attract high achievers in
Yeah.
teaching. Oftentimes, when things let's go out, it's last one in, it's first one out.
Yeah.
What is going to be the signal to those high achievers who in the last 2 years said, yes, I'm going to be a teacher, who then get the pink slip and say,
Well, as I hope that can be reduced or minimized. A lot of school districts have given early retirement opportunities to some of their senior teachers and things like that. So there's ways that can be managed through normal retirements and even through some early retirements. I would also point out that the teacher leadership program, which provides $50 million each year, and a third of the students are getting the benefit of this year, another third next year, and another third in the following year, will require additional teachers and teachers with certain skills that are going to be critically important for our state to improve its achievement. And that's something that we're very committed to. And that's why we think that focusing resources on things like early childhood reading and obviously math and other subjects as well. But if a child can't read by the time they finish 3rd grade, they're not going to be able to learn their other subjects. And that's why we put so much focus on this Reading Resource Center and on the teacher leadership program, which does provide $50 million more each year for the next, well, for this year and the next 2 years.
in reference to the cost, you said the expectation is that people follow the law. This impasse is the product of people not following the law. Should there be a sanction when legislators don't follow the laws that they make?
Well, we know that in terms of setting first of all, the goal that they set of making this decision early in the session is a difficult one for them to achieve, and they have very seldom achieved it over the last decade. Very seldom have they achieved it. And sometimes when they've done it, then there's been a nasty surprise during the school year when they can't fulfill the commitment they've made. And I think since the year 2002, there's been 6 times where they've either cut across the board or underfunded the school aid formula. So I think schools realize I want to make sure we have stability and predictability, and that what we promise school districts we're going to do, that we can fulfill.
At the same time, you often talk about the rule of law.
Right.
This kind of flies in the face of that, and it sends
Well, then maybe the legislature ought to change the law if they can't follow it. That would be a good idea.
should they follow it first, though, if they haven't changed it?
Well, as I said, they have not followed it very often, but they're a separate branch of government. I need to work with them. I want to try to resolve these things, and it isn't helpful for me to be critical of them. I would rather be constructive and helpful in trying to resolve the differences and recognizing this is a difficult budgeting year in light of the fact that revenues are down and the USDA is estimating farm income to drop 32%.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.